There's an old song that says, "The love you take is equal to the love you make." I've always considered it nonsense myself. I've tried to find love for so long, and yet I still spend my nights alone. I'm a hard-working man. I graduated from Cornell University, top 5 percentile, with an MD and a master's in molecular biological sciences. I have been working at a research facility for several years now, and we've come up with some great results from our studies of regenerative prospects of plant life and how it could be used to help with ailments within humans. Lost or diseased organs and limbs, all of that could be a thing of the past with this research. What we are working on, no, what I have been working on for years now, is likely the most important scientific discovery in recent history. But what is admiration and fame without love? 33 years I've lived on this earth. From my adolescence on, I've had little to no luck with love. Sure, there were a few girls through high school, but in the end, they were all the same. They treated me like I was nothing. Sure, it started off fine, and even a few times I was able to find myself caught up in hot passion. But in the end, they'd leave for someone else, or they'd just make an excuse not to come back to me anymore. I'm sure you sit there saying to yourself, but that was high school. Surely at university, or even since you left, you've had a woman by your side at least on occasion. How naive you all are. When my nose wasn't in my books, it was busy between the lenses of a microscope. My research has taken years to get to the point it's at now. Inspiration I had during my second year in university as a student. Working with the human genome, I would be able to manipulate the body to learn to rebuild itself. Maybe even sustain itself for longer, or even indefinitely. Of course, not all of my work is acceptable to modern medicine. But what do those backwards fools know? Science has no boundaries except the ones you set yourself. But even during those pursuits of knowledge, I found myself longing for another. And there were those around me who would play on those desires. There were those that would set up blind dates through dating websites just to get me out somewhere and spend the evening alone waiting for prospective love that would never come. Or they would use a subject of the fairer sex to bring me to social gatherings, and when I would arrive, they'd put all attention on me and reveal the ruse, leaving me amongst a sea of mocking laughter and crushing heartbreak. There were times where I would think I'd have found someone that might have been a good candidate for my significant other, only to have them never speak to me again. I couldn't figure out the mistakes. I couldn't figure out the problems. I couldn't figure out the equation before me. What was the problem? What was the solution? And then one day during my 4th year, I found illumination. The problem, it wasn't with me. No, I was a stable man. I was responsible. I was caring, driven. I was physically appealing, and I was intelligent. After assessing all of the variables and mapping out all of the situations that had happened between high school to that point in time, I figured out the pattern. It was them. They were the problem. Morons and imbeciles, all of them. So caught up in the world of social media and pop culture. So wrapped up in sports and religion and politics. They know nothing. They were nothing. That moment I decided I would be alone no longer. I would figure out the equation and eliminate all variables that stood as a detriment to the end result. Yes, I would have what I've longed for so long. Over the years, I've pushed my research deeper into the realms beyond the norm. Theories of all sorts were taken into consideration, and those that held no solid foundation were tossed aside. I used my growing knowledge of biochemical understanding and mapping of the genetic code to get everything I needed. I even managed to make advances using small test rodents, but it was never truly a success. No, the subjects were too small, too minor. I needed a true test subject. But then, thinking of what I was to do, the word test subject soon became a vile word to describe the ultimate culmination of my research. No, it wasn't befitting at all. After thinking on it, I came to the only logical solution. Yes, it wasn't a test subject. She was my soulmate. I began working long hours into the night, well after the research facility would close. There was no need for them to know. I would use my groundbreaking research that they thought I'd worked so hard on for the benefit of mankind. Mankind. Pathetic. No, this was for me. It was all for me. For us. However, I would soon run into a problem. I couldn't bring my work to conclusion here. Too many witnesses, too many possible problems, too many variables. So, I decided to find an old warehouse. I managed to purchase it with my research grant money and then began acquiring the equipment needed. The only problem after getting everything together and breaking the final problems was the last variable. I needed my soulmate. But what is a soulmate? Obviously one you love unconditionally, but why do you? Is it the way they look at you when they're happy? The way they smile at you when they laugh? Is it how physically appealing you find them? Was it all of that and more? It was hard to decide on. Again, so many variables. But it's okay. I decided to write up a thesis on the perfect soulmate and what one would need in order to create the perfect one. It took several long months to find what I needed. Soft hands, small enough to fit in mine perfectly. Slender, smooth legs that gave her a brilliant stride as she would glide across the floor. With those legs, feet that were tiny and slender. Her arms would be as fit as her legs, toned, and would give a warm embrace. The body was hard for me to determine, but with the right donors, I was able to obtain the necessary parts. A firm and supple buttocks that would sway as she walked. Her breasts ample and glorious to behold. And the sweetest part of all, the most important, a gateway to heavenly pleasures and heights of nirvana no mortal man should know. But I would, once my work was completed and her fully prepared. I only needed one more thing. The face I would look into for the remainder of my days. I had taken to the streets for nights, and eventually, I found her. Lips plump and tempting, eyes green as emeralds, full of life. A small nose with a slight upturn in the front. Soft features mixed with high cheekbones and fair skin. And lastly, her long raven hair. It flowed in the night breeze, almost as if it was one with the wind itself. It was her. It was the last of my soulmate I needed. It was difficult to figure out how to catch her alone, but After a few days of scouting out and researching her habits, I found the perfect time. All I needed was one syringe full of sedative, and she was mine. My heart skipped a beat when I looked into her unconscious face. Soon, I told myself. I've already finished the transplant from the donor, and right now, I stand here looking at her. She's beautiful. I've injected her with the chemical compound I've spent years working on. Everything will become well. Her stitching will heal, her pigmentation will slowly come to blend into one color. Even the part of her cerebral cortex that affects her memory I removed will heal and regrow once she's awakened. She will not remember her previous existence as that other useless thing. No, she will be perfect. She will love me and only me. She will respect and admire me. And once she has fully acclimated to the treatments and she takes full shape, it will be glorious. I'll teach her all I can, and I will have the next evolution of mankind. She will be the greatest accomplishment of my life. Everything is prepared now. The equation has been completed finally after so many years. All I need to do now is throw a few switches and she will be reborn. I shall name her when the time comes if I succeed. No, not if. When I succeed. There is no room for doubt. Everything has been accounted for. This is life or death for me. I cannot repeat the experiment if it fails tonight. The energy I put through here in a moment will destroy everything. It's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I can't perfect the equation anymore. Love will either thrive or die tonight. And if it dies, I will too. I'll burn all my notes and go into oblivion knowing that love was never possible, that it was nothing more than a logical fallacy. So tonight, here and now, I will find out once and for all. Does love have an answer? Or is it just an imaginary number? One throw of the switch will decide my fate. Death with hate, or life with love. Fate, evaluate my equation.